All right, welcome on in to the Falls Count Anywhere podcast here on April 15th of 2023. I'm Charlie Turner along here with Chris DiCarlo and John Bristino, the usual hosts here of the show. Gentlemen, it is tax day today, April 15th. Hope you guys paid your taxes. If not, Erwin R. Shyster will be at your house to suplex your ass if you didn't. So
he's coming. Yeah,
right.
And we're
But guys,
into spring.
What's that, Chris?
We're finally into spring.
That's right, man. That's right. The sun is out. The trees are starting to bloom here in Western New York. We're coming out of our hibernation, so that's a beautiful thing. And yeah, a reminder to all Americans: pay your damn taxes today, or Money Inc. and Erwin R. Shyster will be after you. But guys, we have a tag team of guests today. We got two guests on today's show as we welcome back both to the show, but now in a two-headed monster capacity, if you will, of wrestling history. And we're thrilled to have them both on. Chris, go ahead and give these gentlemen the proper introduction.
That's right. We, for the first here on Falls Count Anywhere, for the first time, two great wrestling historians in their own right. First is a return guest within a year and a half from Minnesota, the great historian, Mr. George Schire. Welcome.
Good morning, guys. Good morning.
And also our second guest, another great wrestling historian in his own right from Manitoba, Canada. We know him, Mr. Wes Maidment. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks so much for joining the show with us today.
My pleasure.
It's going to be a lot of fun as usual. You guys do a fantastic job. It's just a thrill coming on here and finally getting to meet George face to face. Cool.
I echo the same sentiments, Wes. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. Well, guys, let's get right into it. We got 4 classic clips, and after we watch the clips, we'll discuss them in our own opinions. So, John, let's roll the first one.
1 second, please.
Come on, John. What's taking so long? No, I'm kidding.
I was caught off guard. I didn't know we were going clips this quick. Hold on.
I'm kidding, man. Take your time.
We went off the map. We went off the grid. Hold on.
Yeah. And to our guests, gentlemen, your mic might have automatically muted there if you want to comment over the video.
Yeah, this, of course, which we'll get into shortly here, is from Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada, Tony Cannonball Parisi.
Wow.
This was out of World Championship Wrestling Australia. It was always black and white.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Wes will like this one. This was the territory in Montreal, Canada.
Look how clean it was.
I've never been there.
Oh, this restaurant here? Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So, of course, if you don't know out there, that was Tony Cannonball Parisi from nearby Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada, who also wrestled all over the territories, right, guys?
Sure did.
Absolutely.
George, did he make it out there much? George, did he make it out there much?
He did not make it to AWA land, but I had a chance to see him in Texas in the very early 70s. He was wrestling as Tony Pug, P-U-G.
Yeah.
And I followed him very closely in the mid-60s when he was brought into the WWF as Bruno Sammartino's cousin,
Yeah.
the way he was billed, as Antonio Puglisi, I believe it was pronounced.
Yeah.
And then I remember him teaming in the 60s with Spiros Arion. And I think, if my memory is correct, I think it was Johnny Valentine that turned on Puglisi when they were tag team partners or something. But that was my exposure to him. He was very popular in the newsstand magazines, of course. And I've got a lot of programs from the East Coast with him in them from the 60s. But saw him as Tony Pug on a couple of visits that I made down to Dallas.
Wes, we know you know about him, Wes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I think they were U.S. champions, George. Him and Valentine.
Yeah,
To turn him face. They turn Johnny heel more.
Right.
And Johnny went back so many times, right? Hang on a sec. Sorry. And yeah, he's really famous here. I have been to the restaurant for Greg Oliver's first book signing, which seems like a million years ago. And I don't think he was kicking men. I can't remember if he was there, but I got this newspaper article here, laminated. Tony Parisi legend dies at 59, and that was 2000. But I like Parisi. He was pretty good. Worked a lot for the Wild Man here in Ontario, and he wrestled everywhere. Him and DiNucci were big tag team partners for a lot of the 70s in the NWF and also in the WWF. I'm pretty sure he won the WWF tag team title, maybe with Gino Brito or DiNucci. I can't remember which.
Yeah, it was Brito or Brito, however it's pronounced.
Yeah.
But Brito was also Louis. Was it Louis Cerdan?
Yeah.
Is that proper pronunciation?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they had Puglisi teamed with them under both names. I say Puglisi. I know it's later on Parisi. I'd have a question for you guys. You know, he was brought in originally to the Tri-WF as Bruno's cousin in the mid-60s. I want to say about 65, 66, if memory is correct. And I was wondering when and if or how they ever explained down the road the change to Parisi. Did they just not acknowledge it, or because he was in the same territory? And did they no longer acknowledge Bruno's cousin, or how did that go about for you guys that remember him in the WWF?
I don't know. Go ahead, Wes.
Oh, I think it was more of a Pittsburgh thing.
Oh, okay.
So it might have been more because Bruno's Pittsburgh was still WWW.
Right.
It was sort of an offshoot. And I think it might have been more probably New York for a while. And then some more Canadian guys and Detroit guys were coming into Pittsburgh that I think they probably basically just, it's Tony Parisi now, and him and DiNucci are pals and whatever, the Italian connection and stuff like that, right? But
they made a pretty big deal of that back in the magazine days, you know, the Parisi, Brito, DiNucci, quite the Italian connection.
And I think there's really cool pictures with Dino Bravo also that you've seen in some of the magazines.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Well, you know that clip there was from the Montreal territory, Wes.
Yeah, the international and Parisi was a fixture there because he was reliable, close, and he was well known. Even though he was getting up in age, he was certainly well known. Certainly, he was a draw for sure.
And of course, John and Charlie, we know him from being on Maple Leaf Wrestling, and then also into the WWF from Toronto's Maple Leaf Wrestling, right?
Absolutely.
When I saw him in Texas, one of the matches that I saw him in, as he was Tony Pug, as I said, he actually wrestled Ripper Sakuna, who was Baron Mikhail Skikluna.
Yep.
The Baron.
And it was an interesting match because I'd remembered that they'd hooked up in the WWF, of course, and then I saw that match. It was in Fort Worth that he wrestled Sakuna. And I actually had the honor then to see Baron Skikluna wrestle under 3 different names in his career. I saw him in the late 70s as Mike Valentino.
Okay, yeah.
Then later on, the other 2.
In Ontario as Valentino also.
Yep, he was here in the, well, it wasn't the AWA then, it was still NWA territory, but he was Valentino.
And when he left here, when he left Ontario, he moved around to get some exposure and stuff. And he worked for quite a few years as Valentino. And I think he actually maybe even made it to Texas as Valentino, then switched to Ripper Sacuna, which was, or Sacuna, or whatever I would pronounce it. Yeah, I've seen the program too, George. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Sacuna was just Secuna.
Yeah.
So I just pronounced it Sacuna. I'm sometimes
That
you
sounds
don't
about
hear
right.
you don't hear the names, you don't know how they're pronounced. But yeah, that's when I saw him wrestle against Parisi in that, or Pug, Tony Pug.
Yeah. All right, John, let's roll our next clip, please.
Couple of shots of the groin there, you know.
Did you hear that comment? I was laughing too when I was doing this, below the equator. That is just awesome. This, of course, is basically a clip of the Mongolian Stomper.
Oh, loading up the boot there.
Yep. And guess who's going to get it?
Oh,
Okay.
I was going to say, that looks like Jerry Lawler. Yep, there we go.
We know who that is.
The Hulkster there?
Yep. 79, Memphis. Carry the Hulk Boulder.
That guy looks stable, huh?
Yeah. I wouldn't mess with him.
No way.
So, right, guys, Archie Goldie, a.k.a. the Mongolian Stomper.
Absolutely. I had a chance to see him first in Kansas City, Central States, and he was obviously a lot younger, a little more aggressive in the ring. I thought he made a heck of a great heel, you know, in the later 60s, mid 60s, along with guys like the Bruiser and Bulldog Brower. I mean, Stomper would have been right up there with guys. I also saw him wrestle in St. Louis in one match. And then we had the honor, all but briefly, he came into the AWA in 1985. Supposedly, Sheik Adnan Casey brought him in.
Yes.
But, you know, he was here just for, as they say, a coffee break. And I was disappointed because I could tell that Archie was near the twilight of his career. And I don't know if the long term was to give him a push or if it was going to be a short stay. I don't recall, but he wasn't here long. And it was kind of sad that we got to see him at the end. But he was one of my favorite guys, you know, as far as seeing him on programs in the 60s. Wrestled a lot against Pat O'Connor, guys like Ronnie Etchison.
We were lucky that we saw him in Southern Ontario in the early 70s from Calgary, and that just set it off because he was vicious, vicious. They all, you know, anything you read about him talks about his conditioning. I never saw him live, so I can't really say to seeing in person, but the conditioning of that guy was just stomp, 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 go, 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 go. And he just was a punisher in the ring, looked like he was beating the crap out of every single person he wrestled against, for sure.
Yeah, well, and I think that's, you know, that when you mentioned stomp, 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 I think that's explains the Stomper name, because he was for that era when I saw him in the later 60s, he was very aggressive in the ring. I mean, he almost was one of those guys that didn't give his opponent much. It was more, I hate to use the analogy, but more like what the Road Warriors were doing later on, where, you know, I'm going to sell, but you're not going to beat me down.
Yeah.
And Stomper was very good at that. He also was good, guys, where it seemed that he was able to be a baby face as the Mongolian stomper when he needed to be and could get over, which he did in Kansas City as well.
Yeah.
You know, he went back and forth a little bit there, but yeah, he was a great heel. Probably should have gotten a lot more respect than he's had.
So he came to Ontario in May of 1974 to work for the Wildman for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically held a match practically every night for the whole summer of 1974. I wrote a nice chapter in the book that I haven't published yet called The Summer Archie Came to Town. And just incredible heat and incredible Mosca, Brazil, Louis Martinez, Dewey. I think he actually wrestled against Vic Rossitani a couple of times, who George you'd know from AWA. And Dave, the Wellman, McKegney, was working in conjunction with the WWA still. And the boys were all going down there to fill in some dates in Indianapolis. And Rossitani took the North American Championship belt off him and defended in WWA a few times. It was just a short-term thing, just to get some heat here in Ontario, but I should say there in Ontario. I'm not there anymore. I keep saying here. But yeah, he had, and someone sent me some clippings last week of some shows from the Wildman's territory in 1974. And my database, there's no more room to put any more dates in. It's just jammed. He must have worked every single night, which why not, right?
Well, which most of the guys in that era did.
Yeah.
You know, they would tell you that they worked 9 days a week.
That's right.
And seriously, and I mean, you know, people say, well, wait a minute, there's only 7. Well, you got to count those afternoon matinees or something, or, you know, early evening and then heading someplace and getting in the main event somewhere else. I mean, God. You mentioned Rossitani too. I want to just say that I think that's another guy that just really doesn't get the due he's worth. We saw him as in the AWA as Rossitani.
Yeah.
But I also saw him in Oklahoma, Mid-South Territory wrestling, or he was Rossitani down there, and he was Rossi here, AWA. But he was a great worker, and most of the time that I caught him, he was a mid-card guy, and probably, you know, putting someone else over. Good talent.
Yeah, and he worked in Memphis as Vic Rain.
And Vic Mueller too.
Vic Mueller, yep.
Yes.
And we have his 2 sons on some of my Facebook pages, which is pretty cool. And they love their dad. They love Big Vic, they call him.
Yeah.
Big B, sorry.
How do we remember this stuff?
You know, and it,
I pulled Vic Mueller right out of my butt. Jeez.
There's nothing else in here. Shit.
And
This is really
yet,
cool
if
for
you
us.
asked me if I ate breakfast this morning, I'd have to think. Honestly.
Exactly, Wes. All right here, right? And I'm only going to be 48. So hey,
Wes, how old are you, Wes?
I'm going to be 64 in June.
So you're a youngster too. I'm 71,
Wow. Okay.
and it goes by, man.
I'm embarrassed to think about all this stuff that's in here. Chris, you've been last 2 weeks we've been pointing at our heads, right? And it's like, oh, my God.
oh, I'm not. I love it every day, right? John and Charlie know you come to this house, it's classic wrestling every day, even on holidays. It's classic wrestling here. Does not matter. It's my life, my love, and my passion, and so is ours, right?
Yeah.
But real quick, John and Charlie, another Mongolian who we can talk about quickly is from Killer Khan, right?
yeah, yep. Killer Khan. What I was going to mention too, man, just listening to Wes and George talk about these clips, it's awesome because I feel like a fly on the wall for, like, you know, 2 wrestling historians discussing this, man. I don't even, like, you guys take over because this is like really cool for us to hear like these stories and stuff. Love it, man.
It's
Love
your
it.
show.
No, man, take it over.
You know what's so funny is that this month I've been retired, as they say, from the workforce for 15 years. And I honestly, guys, I have not missed a single day where I have not worked on wrestling, researched wrestling, written something for somebody's book, or put my own books out, or researched results every single day. And I live for it. I mean, if I go through the whole day and I haven't done something wrestling, this day was lousy.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I don't even watch a match at night before I go to bed, it's lousy.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine anybody having a life without old school pro wrestling. I wouldn't do it over if I couldn't have it.
It's incredible.
So much fun.
Yeah. My sentiments exactly. You know, I have 5 Facebook wrestling pages, and then our podcast we also have, and I every day it's part of my life, and I'm this close to retiring, and when I do, I am going to be just like you. We could wake up in the morning because we're probably in the same time zone. We could probably wake up in the morning, phone each other, and say, "Hey, what are you working on today? I'm working on this."
You and George, yeah, but not me and you, because my phone bill would be outrageous. That's why I can't call or text you, Wes.
Yeah, but let me say this, Chris and Charlie, you guys, excuse the term, but you guys are freaks to the modern era, because you are not normal in that you guys want to learn and know the history and hear the stories. Most 48-year-olds, wrestling didn't exist until they saw Randy Macho Man Savage against Hulk Hogan or something.
Right. Yeah.
And God help us if they have to be bored with a Vern Gagne story or something, you know. They don't even care. They don't want to know. So you guys are great.
That's a great point, George, because me personally, I was more of like, the mainstream WWF kid growing up, back in the 80s, all the way up through the Attitude Era and through today. And then, of course I knew about the territories and I had some knowledge of it. And as we started doing this show, and then Chris's knowledge of it, and then as we got into the clips, and then now a lot of like these documentaries that are coming out, the Tales from the Territories, and we just watched Dusty Rhodes, and Iron Sheik is coming up. Just to hear the stories and how those territories worked, to me is just so it's so fascinating, because we'll never see that again. And it was so cool, because there would be an attraction, like for an example, Andre the Giant would be an attraction for like 2 weeks in a territory, and then he'd leave, he'd go somewhere else. So to me, I just find that so thrilling. It's just so great, the history of it.
I always tell the younger generation, with no disrespect ever intended, but I always tell the younger generation, you didn't live it, you can't understand it. You just have to take our word for it that our era was way more intense and better than what it is today. And I'm not insulting anybody who loves today's product. I mean, yes, there's good stuff out there too, but the territory days, oh my God.
Nothing like it.
We had so many wrestlers that moved from here to there, back again, and changed names and aliases and masked men and gimmicks matches and the camaraderie between them, and having to get to know these guys of the past and have them as friends. How many times in life can you have your heroes that you can become friends with and have them call you friend?
Yeah.
And now when you're an old guy like me, to have probably 95% of them deceased. Yeah. It's like every time I hear one passing, it just rips a part of me out. And but the memories, oh man.
Never die, right?
Never.
I mean, and guys, me, I told you about me. I've been a fan since 1980. I was 5 years old. John, even before me, in the 70s, John, you started.
Yeah, I'm 52, so I'm more. I remember, but my biggest 79 to like 89, because then once I graduated from high school, you kind of life happens, and I kind of lost track of everything, and then
not me, but
yeah, I did. I mean, kids came along a little bit early, so all of a sudden I was out of it, and then I go. Once the kids get it, funny thing is, they're the ones that dragged me back in around 2004, but I still remember the 70s. The 80s are my time that I remember.
Guys. Oh, go ahead, George.
I'll tell you guys, the secret to it all was growing up as a kid. I was a bona fide wrestling fan at that point, just a fan, and starting to do the research.
Wow.
But I knew that if I was ever going to get married, my wife would have to
go
along with the ride.
That's right.
Come to the territory, yeah.
and I've been married now 49 years, and our very first date, I took her to a wrestling card.
Wow.
Nice.
She'd never watched wrestling, but it was on purpose. Part of it was whoever I was going to be with.
Yeah.
Sounds like a keeper, George. Yeah.
Princess. Trust me. But yeah, you got to have somebody that understands it with you. And she has let me be on this roller coaster and never ever had a problem with it.
My
awesome.
wife loved Goldberg. That's her big person in this pro wrestling world, if you will. But of course, yeah, comes with me, right? That's it. Charlie, you want to go to a break, and then we got 2 more clips. What do you want to do?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, well, first of all, I want to mention it's not often because since we're throwing our ages out there, I'm at 45, going on 46 in a couple weeks. It's not often, as the older I get, it's not often I'm the youngest guy in the room anymore. So I'll take it for today. But
hey, I'm proud to be the oldest. I'm fine.
But yeah,
and Wes, it's great to have you right behind me, buddy.
Yeah, let's do that, guys. Let's check in and do a sponsor break here. Do we have clips on the other end, Chris, or we
got 2 more clips to do, and we got our chic tweets and jobber of the week. So let's do that commercial now, guys.
Awesome. Go ahead, Don. Fire that up. Yep.
Okay, don't forget Robin's got a question over here
Yes.
too.
Oh yeah, we come back. Absolutely.
Digits 988 can save a life. If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, 988 provides connection to free confidential support. There is hope. The Lifeline works. For 24/7 confidential support, just call, text, or chat 988.
All right, welcome back to the Falls Count Anywhere podcast. Charlie Turner, Chris DiCarlo, and John Restino all back here with you, and we have like the mega powers of wrestling historians joining us, if you will, and Mr. Wes Maidment and Mr. George Schire. So, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure so far, and Chris, we have some more clips to roll through. Correct?
Well, before we do that, John, we're going to have John's wife. And we thank her and John for all their hard work behind the scenes, sharing and doing all our show. Robin has a question, guys.
Hi, guys. My question for you, John and I were talking the other day about how extremely relevant the tag teams were during the 80s, during the time of the British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation and the Killer Bees, and you could go on and on. What made that time period specifically so good for the tag teams?
Wes, you want to go in first?
Sure. I don't I don't really know, other than what I can think of quickly, is that there was some talent there. There was massive talent. When you start talking like the tag team division of that era for the WWF, I was still watching. So I love the Bulldogs. I like the Killer Bees. I always liked Brenzel, and Brian Blair, whatever, didn't really do much for me, but I like the Killer Bees. And the WWF seemed to focus either on Hogan, and then right behind it was the tag teams. So there was always a major match in all the big shows. And even Valentine and Beefcake, they weren't, Beefcake wasn't, he was what he was, but they put on great matches. Valentine was fantastic, obviously, but I think it was the talent. I think it was mostly the talented guys until it started getting, there was like the Road Warriors, and then the Demolition, which was kind of a ripoff, and then there was the Powers of Pain, which was kind of a ripoff also, and things just started. They just had to make so many muscle guys, right?
Right.
Okay, well, thanks, Robin. That's an interesting question, and I agree with Wes on this aspect. It was a lot of the talent for the time period you're talking about that really made these teams great, and the action they gave us great. But I think what you need to look at is that even before that time period, tag team wrestling was a hot commodity in any territory. You look at the Mid-Atlantic territory in the 70s, in the 80s, tag teams were, a lot of times they were the main event, with the Anderson brothers and so on and so forth. But you have to remember that tag team wrestling in all territories was extremely popular, and it was the talent, the combination of two unique wrestlers, sometimes both different, and they came together and made a great team. You could have two different styles. The tag teams could tell so many stories back in the old days when you had two guys that hated each other, but they would team up because they hate two other people more than they hate each other. And then you had that question mark there from the fans. I'm going to use Vern Gagne and Mad Dog Vachon when I use that. How can Vern team with the dog? Oh my God, he can't trust him. The dog's going to turn on him. He's going to be in the ring with three opponents instead of one or two. But they hate the opponents more. And then you have the great tag teams that are getting along great, and all of a sudden, oh my God, they have a falling out. And they want to kill each other, and they come up with, singles matches. Then they come up with new partners. And it goes way back to like 1933 when the Pacific Northwest promoters realized that to put two guys on one side and two guys on the other side, now you got double the storyline. And in the old days, with 2 out of 3 fall matches, you could have so many stories told within that match before you come to whatever the conclusion is going to be. So tag teams were great at any time in history. And most territories could, if you look at their histories of tag teams, they always had a solid roster of them. So, I think that's a great question. And I definitely agree that they were still good in the WWF when we had the Bulldogs, we had the Hart Foundation, we had the combining of the mega powers. I was still watching Savage Hogan. You had and Blair and Brunzell. I mean, it was going downhill, Wes. I saw you have that migraine headache happening. It was still, with Hogan and Savage. I mean, there was still that sort of distrust factor that the fans thought about because they had Elizabeth in there in the middle. And so the storylines were still there. And that's the only reason any tag team can be great is when you've got the storylines.
It's such a great point, George, because and to piggyback off what you were saying too, Mega Power is a great example. And the other one, as doing this show and learning about it, I kind of knew a little bit about it, but got to hear more details about it, is when the American Dream Dusty Rhodes teamed up with the Russian Nightmare Nikita Koloff. Nobody was expecting Nikita Koloff to turn face, and the crowd went absolutely bananas when he helped out Dusty Rhodes. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. There's nothing better in the tag team true sense of telling a story than having someone make the save. Greg Gagne, Jim Brunzell were being triple teamed by Bockwinkel, Stevens, and Heenan. And Larry Hennig was still a heel. In fact, he had been feuding with Greg for months, and he always, feuding with Vern. And the three of those guys are beaten up on the high flyers, and specifically Greg. A couple of jobbers come in, they throw him out. Here comes Larry the Axe. And the announcers goes, oh my God, this couldn't get any worse. Now the Axe is joining in on the attack. Yeah. Well, Larry surprisingly went after Bockwinkel, Stevens, and Heenan, carried Greg off the scene at the closing of the program, and then telling the announcer, I couldn't watch this young man's career being destroyed because I have sons of my own that may wrestle. And Larry was a heel, or a heel turned baby right there. That's
cool.
What it's all about. You had great tag teams because of the storylines.
Right. Very good. And guys, so we got 2 more clips. Let's roll them, John.
Wow. It was Nicky Bockwinkel as far back as this goes.
Yeah. Just like, I want to say the 50s here.
That guy was in like a sweater or something.
Yeah, heavy jacket in the ring.
It's anything with stripes on it, throw it on. You're the ref. Well, it was even the ref. Oh, my bad.
There you go.
The King, Jerry Lawler.
Well, what a battle this is.
Oh, they had a great feud. Here, this was 1978, actually, guys, but they feuded into the 80s with great matches. There's the Brain.
Aha. The Weasel there at ringside. The legendary Bobby Heenan. Pretty boy Bobby Heenan. I love it.
Here he has a match from the Houston territory against the Junkyard Dog. This was Southwest Championship Wrestling, about 83 here.
I mean, Bockwinkel just had that look of a pro wrestler, man, head to toe.
Consummate athlete.
Yes.
And then talk about a tag team, guys. This, of course, for us from Japan. Bockwinkel and Harley Race against Dory and Terry Funk.
That's incredible.
Ooh, it's a two-colored ring there, too, yeah.
And then they went against 2 wild men, King Kong Brody and Stan Hansen. So, yeah, guys, basically some footage of the great Nick Bockwinkel.
Well, you don't have to prompt me long to talk about Sir Nicholas of Bockwinkel, let me tell you. He was, yes, the consummate wrestler. And I'm very proud to say a friend. Man, he was a good friend. Visited my house. Used to go to lunch with him. Just a great guy. But in the ring, I think when you legitimately make a list of maybe the top 50 wrestlers of all time, and any list like that is subjective at best, we all know that. But if Nick Bockwinkel isn't on it and close to the top, if not at the top, it's a bogus list.
Agreed.
He knew how to play the crowd, and he knew how to make you love him or hate him. That first clip, by the way, I think it was from around 58.
Wow.
And, I believe you're right.
And yes, he was Nicky Bockwinkel in those days. You notice that you had the Southwest Championship Wrestling.
Yes.
And that was Nick doing a favor or doing favors going into Joe Blanchard's territory. Nick and Joe Blanchard outside the ring, good friends. And So Nick, would go in and do these shots for them. And of course, when he's in Houston, he was doing it for Paul Bosch, who he was great friends with, along with Nicky's dad, Warren. I loved those two clips at the end against the Funks, and of course, Brody and Hansen. And when you think of a team like Harley Race and Nick Bockwinkel,
Yeah.
I got to really honestly tell you guys that if you wanted to list a dream team,
Yeah.
For sure.
putting those two together, different styles in a way, but very, very just, there's no way they were bad on any night. And here's my idea of a great wrestler. I've seen so many of them in so many matches. If you can honestly say, I never saw them in a bad match, regardless of who their opponent was, that makes them even better than probably what they'll ever get credit for. And that's Nick and Harley. Nick and Harley, the old story, they could go in the ring with a broomstick, and they could convince you that the broomstick was going to beat them. That's a true story. That's a pro.
Yeah.
And that's what Nick and Harley were so good at. Showing the fans that they were beatable, or they could be beat, or even should be beat, but they don't lose.
Yeah.
That's talent.
Go ahead, Wes.
Bockwinkel to me, he looked like he wasn't overly big, but his face, his hair, his persona from the neck up was a pro wrestler. He talked the talk in way before anybody else talked the talk. Let's put it that way. I saw him a few times in Toronto, and it was like magic seeing him walk up the ramp with that big, huge AWA belt and Heenan following behind him. And to say that sometimes less is more, and it's true. Sometimes Bockwinkel just seemed to do less, and it meant more. Another guy who completely would tell a story in the ring. Absolutely no problems. And I would love to see that match between him and a Lawler, because two guys who weren't big, they were just two professional wrestlers with capital letters, right? For sure.
Yeah.
Bockwinkel, he had a long career, he traveled everywhere. That's why he probably was so good. He'd learned so many styles, and oh my gosh, just a consummate professional wrestler.
And two guys, I'll add that when you talk about the guys that he was in the business with, you got to remember Nicky was trained by first his dad. Then he was trained for the pro ranks by Lou Thez, along with Wilbur Snyder. Wow. Now, I don't know of three better guys that you could, at that time frame, in that era, Warren, Thez, and Snyder, that you could come up with that you could learn more from. And in his early years, Nick and Snyder, they were 10 years apart, give or take a year. They were about 10 years apart in age, Snyder being older. They formed an outstanding tag team. We talked about tag teams a moment ago, out on the West Coast and also in the Indianapolis territory before it was owned by the Bruiser. Okay. Snyder and Bockwinkel. And they looked a lot alike. They in that day, Nick still had his crew cut along like Wilbur did, and they were kind of a look-alike team, but great. I saw them one time wrestle one match as a team, and just two great wrestlers. So Nick had the best of the worlds. And here's another story for Nick that really tells it all. When Nick went into the match, any match, he was always willing to let his opponent have some say in what they were going to do. And one of the best matches you could ever see, and I think I saw these guys wrestle at least 20, 30 times over the decades, was Nick Bockwinkel and Billy Robinson. Mm. Now, Billy, guys, is a tough act to work with. If Billy didn't like you, he wasn't going to give you anything, and he was going to guzzle you to death.
Wow.
Okay.
If you respected Billy, and this is coming from Nick himself, Nick said, and here's the thing, guys, I saw them wrestle 20, 30 times. not to mention in tag team matches too. I never saw them wrestle the same match, exactly the same match. They could deliver something new all the time. But here's what Nick said. A lot of people didn't want to work with Billy Robinson for that very reason, because Billy just was, I don't know, he'd get a bug up his butt and he wouldn't work with you. And Nick says every time they wrestled, Nick would go into the locker room before their match and he would literally say, well, William, what do you want to do tonight? That was the key question. And he let Billy and him respected each other. And their matches, I swear to God, I could watch them every night over and over in a different match, and I'd never get bored with it. So Nick had that respect. And like he said about Vern Gagne too, Nick was a cooperative worker. He said about Vern Gagne, he said, I work for Vern, and whatever Vern wants me to do, I do it.
Yeah.
And then he also said, if I ever don't think I can do this anymore, I move on. So Nick was a good player. And that's why Vern respected Nick and kept the title on him for, 5-6 years there or 5 years for the first run, almost 5 years.
All right, guys, one more clip though. Cuba.
Wow.
Imagine doing that nowadays, John.
They didn't even care. They just, wow. He went right for his brother.
Right.
Well, they might as well said Fidel.
Yeah. This was late 70s, and this is from the Hawaii wrestling, Polynesian territory. They're
Cool.
the ring announcer and the Blears. Look at this, how young.
Yeah. Oh, wow. He's a little thinner there.
Look at the belt, though. Look at the belt. It was actually a buckle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a weightlifting belt.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. The original Sheik here.
What the hell's he looking at, I wonder?
Yeah, he always did that, looking up to the sky.
Incoming.
Yeah. Speaking of a tag team, here we go, tag team match. Wait till you see this one.
Yeah,
That was clips from the legendary Polynesian / Hawaii territory, guys.
That's cool.
Nice clips. I love Lord James Blears. It would have been nice to have seen him wrestle because he was a really big talent, and everywhere he wrestled also. Big partner with Lord Athol Leighton in upstate New York and Ontario in the late 50s. So it would have been nice to see him live, but it's just way before my time. George, did you see Blears?
I had a chance to see Blears in the 70s when he did work the AWA. Of course, it's a little beyond his really great years, but he had been here originally in 73, 74 because he was filming the Wrestler movie for Vern Gagne. And Lord Blears, if you guys remember that movie or have seen it, he was the supposed Hawaii promoter coming in and offering Billy Taylor as the top challenger. Billy Taylor was Billy Robinson. And that was Blears. But he worked AWA cards. And of course, he was always later on an official presented from President Stanley Blackburn to either referee a match or as a spokesperson for Stanley when Stanley wasn't able to be here. I would like to mention the Von Steiger thing when we talked about great tag teams. I originally saw both of those wrestlers, Kurt and Carl von Steiger, when they were working in the AWA as enhancement talent, TV jobbers, Paul Caruso and Lauren Corlett.
Yeah.
And it was Mad Dog Vachon. Paul Caruso was a really good friend with Mad Dog. And Mad Dog kind of coaxed Pacific Northwest promoter Don Owen to put them together, Corlett and Caruso, and they became the Von Steigers. Very good German team. And I loved your comment about the Castro character, that, we couldn't do that today. And I think that brings up an excellent point, that in today's world, as we sit here right now, we are politically correct, conscious as we could ever be. And God help us if we blurt something out that's going to be obscured as being a racist or whatever. But pro wrestling in its heyday, if you didn't have the evil Germans and the garlic eating Russians and the hated Japs, as they called them, the Japanese, but they were Japs in the 50s after World War II. Pro wrestling, every territory had Germans, Russians, and Japanese, and the tag teams that came from that. And sadly, I really tell you guys, I miss those days. Yes, in the scheme of things, it was wrong. We shouldn't be, obviously the politically correct stuff is good. Sometimes we maybe go too far. I don't know, but it is. But there was nothing better and even Billy White Wolf, who we saw in that clip, he took on his Sheik Adnan Casey from Iraq when the Iraq war and everything was going on. And you hated him because he was representing this foreign country. Society has lost a lot in the pro wrestling era, that because you can't cross that line anymore.
Right.
No,
and not even a manager. Like we talked about, no managers nowadays.
Exactly.
Terrible.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it's just, maybe sometimes we went too far, my opinion, but I agree with it. I mean, we need to have the politically correct stuff that we do, because the world is not gentle and kind all the time anymore. And we've got to limit some of that.
Yeah.
The golden era. And boy, I grew up watching the Kelmakoffs, Ivan and Carol. Yeah. And I can't tell you how those two would raise the crowd and the boos. You talk about great tag teams, man, they could just come to the ring and the heat they generated. And we've lost all that. So to have a foreign heel today, I mean, it's almost sacrilegious. You just can't.
Yeah, can you imagine Nikita Koloff or Nikolai Volkov, Nikita Koloff showing up in Russian gear? That the place would go absolutely nuts. Yeah. Social media would explode. Yeah, it would. You just can't get away with it anymore. Yeah.
And it's really interesting to note that Ivan Koloff, for example, and we go back 52 years right now, when Koloff beat Bruno for the WWF title in '71, and before that match began, Koloff was told that when the match would end, because he was going to win the title that night, he knew that before his hand was raised, he would make the pin on Bruno, and he was escorted out of the arena in Madison Square Garden. And that was done on purpose, because Bruno couldn't be beat, guys.
Right.
7.5 years, every heel of every magnitude clobbered, beat, pounded on Bruno, but Bruno somehow, he was never going to lose. And when he lost to Koloff, I have never talked to a fan yet that didn't say that when Bruno's shoulders were pinned, you never heard more silence in the garden. But Koloff was gone. If Koloff would have strutted and boasted, they'd have killed him. Literally.
Yeah, they would have been crazy. Yeah.
There would have been a war right in the arena. Yeah.
You could not beat Bruno.
Like when Hogan turned heel in '96. Okay, I played into it, man. I went from a Hogan lover from '84 until then. When he turned heel, man, I didn't like him anymore, and I bought into it. you know,
all the trash thrown in the ring during that and everything. People were pissed off, man. Yeah.
but
And that's the secret to good promoting. When you can get a guy or a tag team that can make you hate them so much. You know, there isn't a promoter in the country back in the day that wouldn't have had any of those guys on their card. Or if you can find the guy that can draw people in because he is so popular. You know I make fun all the time of the clowns that Vince McMahon has paraded through over the years. Doink the Clown being one of them. But here's a magic answer. If Doink the Clown would have put butts in the seat in the main events, 20,000 strong all over the country, Doink the Clown would have been world champion.
Right.
It didn't matter. It's what drew the fans.
Yeah.
right.
We
Well,
saw a clip there of the Sheik and just the exact opposite for his big run. And everyone hated him so much they just came to see him lose. And he unfortunately he played his string out way too long and he couldn't quit being the Sheik and everything. He lost everything, right? But he was incredibly popular or unpopular. So many people loved him back then, but he did generate a lot of just massive heat, right?
yeah, the original Sheik. All right, Charlie, we got Sheik tweets from the Iron.
Yeah, we go from the original Sheik to the next Iron Sheik, if you will. And gentlemen, I'm glad to have you on board with this because we have a lot of fun with the Sheik tweets. I don't know who's running his social media, but they're capturing his thoughts basically and putting it on Twitter for the most part, and they nail it for the most part because it's freaking hilarious. And we'll get into. He's got an upcoming documentary coming up as well. But this is it here. So as the Sheik states here, I was the WWE champion before that Hollywood blonde jabroni Hulk Hogan. Watch me this Sunday. You see who's the real Bubba. The Sheik takes credit for creating Hulkamania because he did the job for him. And the Sheik still, since 1984, has hated Hulk Hogan thoroughly since then. Going on 30 years.
Not a week that goes by, I don't hear it.
Or 40 years, I should say. Yeah.
All right, next.
This was pretty funny because I don't know if you guys are watching any NBA, the play-in tournament there, but DeRozan's daughter was screaming during DeMar DeRozan's daughter was screaming during free throws that the Raptors were taking. Now, of course, the building's quiet because they're in Toronto, and DeMar DeRozan's daughter is there. And you could just hear her screaming her lungs out. And these guys were missing free throws. A 70 to 80% shooting team from the line was shooting 50% that night. And the Sheik picked up on that. And he said, look, I've been heckled in my life a million times. If this happened to me, I would have suplexed everyone. And, it makes you laugh because it was just this little girl, maybe 9-10 years old, causing all this chaos. And the Iron Sheik picked up on it. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, it's great.
Good stuff. Go ahead, John.
I would like to just say about the Iron Sheik. I had the honor to see him when he came out of Vern Gagne's camp.
Oh, yes.
And he was just Khosrow Vasiri back in those early days. And he did some reffing for Vern and he wrestled. And of course, he had this legit amateur background, that Vern loved so much. But seeing him morph over the years into his various personas, again, on a trip to Texas, I saw him when he was down there, and he was Hussein Arab, which was one of his monikers for a while. And then, of course, he got into this Iron Sheik thing, and he came back to the AWA in the late 70s. He used to do that deal with what are those?
The clubs.
The clubs. And, man, he made it look easy, and he did him. But he's quite the character. And I heard him say one thing this is kind of with a tweet thing, but he said one thing at a Cauliflower Alley meeting. He said that when he was on the road so much during the 70s and the 80s, he'd be gone for weeks and weeks and weeks. And one time when he came home, he'd passed his house because he'd been gone so long, his wife had painted it and he didn't recognize the house. So, but
that's hilarious.
He's had his detractors. There's a story that's always loomed out there that that Vern Gagne offered him money, $100,000 or something to break Hulk Hogan's leg.
Yeah.
And I remember both Vern and Greg, they've told me that wasn't true. But cheeky baby, as he says, and he was great. He says it is true. So he was great on his interviews with Gene Okerlund.
Oh my God.
Mean Gene Okerlund. It was Jesse Ventura that gave Gene the Mean Gene. And then Hulk and everybody picked up on it. But when Sheik would come out, he would come out and start in his Russian whatever, or German, or no, Iranian, I'm sorry. He'd come out with his thing and he'd call him Gene Mean.
Yeah.
Gene Mean. Yeah.
So he's a character. And he's finding a way to promote himself in the later years here. And so be it.
Yeah, go on. How many more we got, John?
There's two more there. Yeah, two more quick ones here. We'll throw up on the screen there. Oh, this was because look, the Dalai Lama. Yeah, he did some weird shit where he wanted some kid to suck his tongue. I'm not even gonna get into it because it's disgusting. But the Sheik picked up on that, and he said, "Dalai, I'm gonna go uncensored here." But he said, "Dalai Lama, you sick fucking jabroni piece of shit. I'm gonna beat the fuck out of you, you dumb son of a bitch, and rip the tongue out of your mouth." Jabroni, go fuck yourself. I love that response because yes, I'd love to see the Sheik put the Dalai Lama in the camel clutch and just lean back on him after that ridiculous comment. Yeah,
I'm concerned why Sheiky didn't tell us how he really felt.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah, really.
I mean, why did he hold back?
Right.
Yeah, really.
And the last one here, man, I can relate to this, guys. I've told you this before. I work from home, and I usually have the TV on in the background. I hear these commercials all day. Burger King, for example, I just want to like snap my TV in half. Liberty Mutual is another one, and the Sheik. This one I felt deep in my soul. If I hear the Liberty commercial again, I swear to the Jesus, I'm going to beat the fuck out of my TV. And yes, I can absolutely relate to that because they're the worst commercials on the planet. Well, Burger King has kind of taken over as the worst commercials. The marketing campaign. Every time that song comes on, I feel like I'm in like a being held in a prison cell. And somebody's playing it to drive me nuts. That's how bad it is. But I'm glad the Sheik picked up on the Liberty Mutual commercial, and hopefully he does break the neck of the marketing people over there because they need it.
Yeah.
From the Sheik tweets, we got a jobber of the week, right?
Absolutely, guys. Yeah, let's roll right along to our jobber or enhancement talent of the week. Wasn't sure if this was Tim McEnany or Tim McNeely, but as I was looking up his information here, he wrestled from 1992 to 2001, strictly in the World Wrestling Federation, then World Wrestling Entertainment when they transitioned at the end there. I believe it was 2001. Anyway, he wrestled 33 matches and unfortunately went 0-33, which kind of surprised me. He went on almost a 10-year run without winning a match, and here he is getting smacked around by the legendary King Kong Bundy, who, of course, asked for the 5 count. Well, the legendary splash in the corner, and, of course, asked for the 5 count at the end of the match. He always got the 3 count, and then the Bundy, of course, would say 5, give me 5, and then the ref would count 2 more. And that was that. So, yeah, Tim McNeely there getting roughed up by the big bad King Kong Bundy. But, again, almost a 10-year career, 0-33. But, hey, you got to make money somehow, right, guys?
Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
I'm gonna
Poor
guess
Tim.
that-
But he did more in the ring than we'll ever do, so that's good.
Yeah.
Exactly. Much respect for those guys because, we've said it before, take 2 to tango, man. And those guys, especially on Saturday mornings, would put the marquee talent, put them over, and, you needed 2 to wrestle. So props to those guys for doing the grunt work, if you will.
I think the greatest compliment to all jobbers, and I can recall this again from a Cauliflower Alley banquet meeting, when Red Bastien got up on stage and he made the comment that there would be no Red Bastiens or Destroyers or Mad Dogs if we didn't have the Kenny Jays, the George Gadaskis, the jobbers of the world. And he put kudos out to all of them. And I agree with what Wes said. Utmost respect for anybody who laced up the boots and put on the trunks, because I wouldn't be able to even do that and get in the ring.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's been arguments made that some of those guys should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Guys like that we remember right off the top of our head, like Barry Horowitz or Iron Mike Sharp, Steve Lombardi, the Brooklyn Brawler, guys like that. you remember them because, yeah, sure, they were the jobber, they were the enhancement talent, but they were memorable.
Well, they were every much a great worker as the guys they were in against. It's simply that their job was to not win.
Yeah.
And
I've always liked not to say that I disliked someone. I have no problem saying I didn't like Paul Jones, say, for example. Just didn't do anything for me. And I would say that that's my personal opinion. I'm not a big Paul Jones fan, but the guy had a massive career, whether I liked him or not. And he got in the ring for years and years and years and did what he had to do to entertain us. And now I'm really pushing the word entertain, that they entertained us. And it was a jobber or a TV match or a main event. They entertained us. We paid our $20 or 10 or back in the day, $2.50, whatever it was. And I'll never get in the ring. And I have even asked to get in the ring to do an announcement once. I just wouldn't go in the ring because I didn't feel that I should. Yes, I've slapped the ring. I've went like this with the ropes, but I had never gotten in the ring because it just didn't seem right to me. With disrespect, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I've been in the ring. I was an announcer a few times, ring announcer, and I played an evil heel manager for an independent group, and even took a few bumps. Even took a few bumps back in the day, but
Okay.
I didn't want to do it for a living. Let me tell you that. And these guys, I tell you what, you just can't say enough good about them. You just can't. It's great.
100%. And then when you hear that the guy, some of the guys that were full-time, that the surgeries that they've gone through post-career, guys like The Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, the guys I grew up with, just Triple H being another guy, just a lot of the toll that it takes on their bodies, and like I said, this Tim McNeely, he wrestled 33 matches. And again, so I'm sure he had some lingering effects of getting tossed around the ring. So, especially from a guy like King Kong Bundy, who was 400 plus pounds. So very, very cool.
Wes, I think Wes brought up a good point when he talked about they were entertaining us. And, that's very true. Back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, early 80s, our kayfabe era, they were entertaining us. They went out of their way to entertain us. But we also believed, and even for those that, that stuff's fake, even they would say, but that was real.
Right.
That move was real. Or, if you could suspend that disbelief even a little bit, they were doing their job. And the only difference is that when McMahon went public and said, hey, it's entertainment, folks, the matches are, they're still entertaining us. Now we just know everybody knows it's planned, whereas before they could convince you. And that picture I always see of Johnny Valentine where he says, I can't make something about he'll make you believe that he's real or something to that effect. I have it on my Facebook page.
Well, I'll tell you guys.
Real quick.
Go ahead, Chris.
And, Nikita Koloff laughed at me, right, guys, when we had him on the show. If we don't believe and buy into it, like last year when Jeff Jarrett was a part of Ric Flair's last match, I hated Jarrett even more than I hated him. Yeah. So, I mean, you got to buy into it. You got to buy into it, right? I mean, I'm 48 and I buy into certain stuff like that. So it's just.
Chris, I'll tell you a few things about Santa Claus when we get off the air that you might. I'm kidding, of course, but no, you're absolutely right. They utilize social media and podcasts leading up to that, to where you didn't really know, like, wait a minute, what's going on here, right? So that was very well put to use, the social media aspect, to get us talking and then asking the questions, like what was going on there. Very cool stuff, gentlemen. This has been an honor for us. Just to be able to hear you two discuss, the clips that we showed and just the wrestling history, that your knowledge has just been awesome to listen to, guys. Like I said, it's like the Mega Powers came together for this show. So anytime you guys want to join us both as a tag team and come back here and do this again, we'd love to have you back. Oh, my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. And it's great to meet George finally. And you guys rock. I love your show. And thank you.
it's great. It just makes my day. Thank you so much for having me on.
Makes ours too. Thank
I
you so much.
appreciate it very much, guys. Always love doing your show. I love it when things are just spontaneous and we get to just talk off the cuff. You guys know that's when I'm at my best.
Right.
It was good meeting you, sir. At least via the internet. So let's do it again.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, guys, that was pretty cool stuff for three jabronis like us to talk some wrestling history with Mr. George Schire, Mr. Wes Maidment. Like I said, it was just almost, I just wanted to let them take over and talk because their wrestling knowledge is just awesome to listen to, and the history of the business that we've talked about on this show is really, really cool stuff, guys.
Yeah, a first for us, and what a great show indeed. And I'm sure we'll hear about it, which is going to lead us, John, into thanking our viewers from all our platforms that we do each and every week here. We'd like to thank them, of course, on our home is Facebook, of course, at 2 p.m. today. The show will air, and of course, so you can watch it anytime after that. Our YouTube channel is growing. We're at 42 subscribers. Friends with the Z Media Network all together on the YouTube search. It's not just our show here, Falls Count Anywhere, but John's shows and as well. And also my 21-year-old has started his Otaku Gamers, and he's going to have this week he's going to discuss Power Rangers history. Nice. And that's, a lot of views come from that stuff too as well. But of course our Twitter at Count Anywhere, and of course our Spotify, don't forget. And John, tell our viewers about Facebook stars.
Yep. As you're watching this, you'll see that you can send us stars. 99 cents is all. We'll send us stars. If we get enough stars, it gives us a little more clout, I guess you'd say, on Facebook, and allows us to get some different type of advertising that comes through Facebook. Also, that 99 cents comes in, helps us with technology, helps us maybe with all the different things, making things bigger and better. So if you like what we're doing, and you can, 99 cents gets us 100 stars, or if you want to give $5, gives us 500 stars. But that's cool. Send stars. And if you don't want to send stars, maybe you can't, just share for us, please, and like. Thank you.
Yeah, and shout out to those that have left comments after we post the video. We're not live when we post this. We're recording it, and then we're putting it on social media. So if anybody's asking a question, we apologize. We're not getting back to you right away. We're not live, but we do see all the comments. We try to get through them, and we thank each of you for leaving a comment and for checking out the show, because it's really awesome for us, and it makes us feel like we're doing the right thing here, and keeping it entertaining. And we're glad to facilitate a meeting between Wes and George, Wes Maidment and George Schire, two great wrestling minds. So keep an eye out for Wes's podcast, because he's going to have George on there, and I can't imagine. We just scratched the surface with those two. I can't imagine what they would talk about on their own. So keep an eye out for that. And once we find out some more info, we'll post it on our Falls Count Anywhere Facebook page. But guys, again, thank you so much. Do we have any public service information you want to throw out there, John, before we sign off here?
Yeah. We have the 911.
The 811.
No, what is that?
988.
988. We have that. That's for, when you're in real despair, suicidal thoughts. That's a quick number, 988. But 844-794-3812 is mental health. Also, if you could call this number too. But also, if you're just depressed, anxieties, just the normal everyday thing. If it's getting too much for you, call 844-794-3812. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They will talk to you all day long if you needed them. They aren't going anywhere, even on Christmas. So 844-794-3812. Don't be ashamed, because we all get it. And we all feel this way sometimes.
Absolutely. Fantastic stuff, guys, as usual. Really, really fun show today. And as we progress through the month of April, me and Chris will be celebrating a birthday next week as we get another year older. It's just another day on the calendar as far as I'm concerned at this point.
Just a number.
That's it, brother. As long as we're upright or on this side of the ground, that's a good thing. So, but guys, thanks again for the show, for a great job today, and we'll see you guys soon again. Have a great weekend.
Yes, thank you.